some other organizations and other regions, Knox Classic, whatever show you pick, go to there. It'll have your links, and it'll link you back to whomever your sponsor tanner is. Use that person. If it's me, Maggie, if it's gunslingers in Tennessee, whomever, use that person. They're going to be able to provide the highest level of service for you, because they're going to be at the host hotel for you, generally speaking. They're going to be backstage for you, helping you from start to stop. Once you show up, you are in their hands. We've got you. Between Steve's expediting team, Alan's judging team, our backstage team, you are very well taken care of. But when you go to those websites, it'll have all your skin prep, your booking instructions, and all of those things.
Yeah. Skin prep is number one. If you don't prep your skin, it's not going to tan well. I don't care what we do for you, you're not going to tan well. You've got to get off the dead skin cells. You've got to shave. There's a specific time that you need to shave. All of that is in our instructions. It is your tanning Bible for your journey. So make sure you go ahead and download it, print it, know what you need. They have skin prep that you can order for them. We also have skin prep that you can order from us. Always reach out to us. We are just like you. We're people. You can call us. There's no dumb question. Always ask, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? So you might call us, email us. My information is everywhere. It's also on your promoter's website. Chris's is the same way. We're here for you. So through your journey, you've got a question, call us. But order your skin prep products, because it is going to help you prep for the solution that you're going to use. I have very detailed instructions, so make sure you print those out, start to finish on what you need to do, when you need to start it, how you need to do it. Okay? Any questions so far?
What's the website again?
Mine is spraytansbymaggie.com, and yours is?
We're eliteperformancetanning.com, but again,
It's on
when you
the
pick
covers.
your show,
Yeah.
you pick the Wilmington Championships, you pick the North Carolina Natural, you pick the whatever show you decided to go to, that show promoter will have the links to everything you need, their hotel, their preferred hotels, their preferred vendors, their tanning, blah, 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 blah. Again, you can go to the websites independently as well.
That was my question.
Yes.
That was my question.
Oh, okay. That's pretty much the spiel. Print out the prep instructions, follow those. If you have questions, contact your tanner, ask those questions so that you know how to proceed. Yes.
What should they bring with them?
To tanning?
Yeah.
Nothing, come naked. No, I'm just kidding. So for most tanning companies, we have separate tents for you guys to be in. I do mine in a horseshoe. There's separate tents for you to be in so you feel comfortable. You want to bring the most comfortable clothes you have. I like silk kind of feeling material so it kind of glides on the skin, it doesn't stick to the tan. Watch your waistbands. You don't want big ribs. I see those all the time in your tan because you've got a big waistband. Loose clothing, button up so you don't have to try to pull it over your head, but just something really loose. For me, with my solution, no red. For some reason, if you buy a new red set of pajamas and you put them on right after you spray tan, your tan color is going to change. So for me, and it's on my instructions, no red. Do you have anything else like that?
Or wherever you want.
Yeah, I don't know why that happens, but it does.
No, it was like Maggie said, wear something old and ratty when you go to your hotel, bring old ratty sheets. We're very fortunate we use a lot of the same hotels over and over and over again.
Bring your
These
own
products,
towels.
they come out of your clothes, so if you get tan on your clothes or your bed sheets, whatever it is, they will come out with all bleach solvent.
I spill it all the time, and it comes out.
It's expensive, I don't spill it.
I cannot afford to save my life. I hit that cup, and it just goes everywhere. The girls are like, do not touch the solution. I'm like, okay. But it does come out. But you don't want to mess up the hotel sheets. So, and that is also on my instructions to remind you, because I know that there's a lot happening today, so it's all on the instructions.
So you're getting a spray tan the day before, and then before the show you're getting like touch-ups?
Yeah, we're normally backstage, or for me, I do mine at the host hotel the next morning. That way that you're done, when you get to the venue, we'll be backstage for little touch-ups that you may need, and most of your tanners will do your bikini by if you need it, and we'll do your blades backstage too.
Now, that being said, here's a great counterpoint. You have a completely different skin tone than the gentleman to your left. So the darker you are naturally, the easier it is for your skin to take a tan. You naturally have a darker natural tan. You will take that product a lot easier than you will. The more natural tan you have leading up to a show, now everyone has their opinion on tanning beds and what all of the predispositions to skin challenges and all. If you don't want to use a tanning bed, don't use a tanning bed. All these companies, if you have a super fair complexion, I'll say for you, if you have a super fair complexion, and something for ladies to think about too, is tan lines, especially leading up to summer shows. But you can get a base tan. It's really going to help your situation. It's going to make that tanner's job just that much easier. Do we have gallons on gallons on gallons? Absolutely. But again, it's part of the process. You're spending 16, 20, whatever it is, number of weeks dieting, exercising, practicing, posing. Consider your skin is the first thing that Jack is going to see when you walk on stage. He's going to see you. He's not going to see your muscular leg. The first thing to go along is your skin. So if your skin, if you're too light, too dark, you're blotchy, you're muddy, let's work together to create that package for you. So if you tan ahead of time, if you do a base tan, or even if it's DIY tan, now you have brought you to apply a tan on the Wednesday before the show to let that sit in. So when they put the additional on you, if you have super fair skin, you two ladies have super fair skin, that would make it that much easier.
I'll add something to the tanning situation, especially as new competitors. Are you guys all novice? No one's competed here before? Okay. Tan is important. Obviously, this is all about how you look on stage. And as new competitors, you're only going to be able to get in such good shape. Just a reality. Think about how much muscle you have, the level of conditioning you can get in. But what you can control is definitely your tan. And something that we see a lot of are athletes that get on stage and their tan doesn't look the way it's supposed to, and they have some issues with it. 9 times out of 10 is because they didn't go with the tanning company that's recommended by the promoter. They listened to their coach, or they had somebody say, hey, try this, do this, I have a friend. Don't do that. Control as much as you can. Number one, because they're going to be backstage doing the touch-ups. Because they're going to be backstage doing the touch-ups, they're going to be on hand the entire time. Let's say the tan doesn't take. They'll take ownership of that. They'll tell you what to do, how to fix it. But I mean, almost every single time we judge somebody and their tan is off, it's because they use another company that wasn't at the host hotel, or they tried to do it themselves. They had a friend doing it, or they came up with some type of a situation that might have saved them some money, which I understand. This isn't a cheap date. But like they said, you died at 16, 20 weeks to do this. You're on stage for 5, 10 minutes. All right, don't let your tan be a reason that you get a bad look and don't get the placement that you want. So the one thing I will say, skin prep is super important. All those things matter, but go with the tanning company that the promoters are setting you up with. One, because they're true, they're tested, they're professional, and they will be there on hand to help you if there are any issues. 9 times out of 10, there are no issues. They'll catch it before it becomes an issue. If the tan's not taking, if the color is off, whatever those things might be, they can handle it right then and there and make sure that's corrected before you ever get on stage. So very important, always use the tanning company that the promoters, spend a lot of time, money, and effort and energy to get there in the right place to help you guys, the athletes, succeed, okay?
Yeah, I will say that for makeup and hair as well. I know that you may be on a budget, but those people have done shows before. We're not new in this industry, and they know the stage presence that you need. Your face is not too light, it's not too dark. They know, and the ones that I work with know my color, so they know exactly what your color is going to be on Saturday morning. She knows what to do with your face. Always use the vendors. We're chosen for a reason because we've done it before. You go to a regular makeup artist, let's say at Belks, and you use Clinique. They have no idea the color you're going to be on Saturday morning. Your face is really white and it washes out and it sticks out, and that's where your eyes go. You don't want eyes on your face. You want it on your physique. So if it's too light, does not look good on stage. If it's too dark, you're all teeth and eyes, also does not look good on stage. You want people on your team that know what they're doing and what you're supposed to look like. So there's a reason why we get chosen for the positions that we're in. So use your sponsors and your vendors that are on your promoters' websites.
Yeah, control the controllables, and she makes a great point with the hair and makeup. Ladies, this isn't prom, all right? We don't want to see the prom hair on stage. Love that, that's your thing.
Glitter, no.
But be mindful of that, and same thing with the makeup. I mean, we've seen folks who, their girlfriends are great at makeup, they do, wedding makeup, all these different things. There's a time and a place for that. But when you're on stage, the lights are bright. I mean, really, really bright. You can be washed out real quick. You know, we see some things where, you know, women want to have like the eyeliner matching their green suit or their blue suit. Don't do that. You know, I mean, there's a time and a place for that. It's really not on this stage. So you want to you want to stand out, but you want to stand out in the right ways. And sometimes we'll see, you know, men and women, particularly women, come up there with their own personality, and we love that. We want to see the energy, we want to see the attitude, but you got to be mindful that it's staying kind of within the lines that make sense with what is on stage, because that's what you're being compared with. And you don't want that to take away from your overall look, you don't want to take away from the aesthetic or your physique, because that's super important, and that's one of those things you can definitely control. So, you know, go to the website, talk to the promoters, reach out to them directly, and ask them what they think, what direction would they go in. This isn't a knock on any of the coaches, because there's a lot of incredible coaches out there, but sometimes they'll have their own situation set up and say, hey, well, I have this person who does this, or I do it myself, or these other things. And I get that and respect that. Reach out to the promoter, because the promoter is going to give you the most objective answer that you can get. And so always reach out to Alan, Steve, whoever it might be, the gardeners, anybody, reach out to them first, and they will always give you the objection, best decision, the best case that you want to get out of that.
100%.
You guys have any questions on the tanning?
I have a question on tattoos. Do you guys cover tattoos, or is it a different team, or?
Jack might disagree with this, he might have a different take on it.
I say don't cover that.
Steve Weinberger
Unless
told
it's
me
something
directly,
profanity.
do not cover tattoos.
Don't.
Unless it's something, in my opinion, unless it's something offensive, you know, you got hula girl dance on your forearm, the whole thing, something's gonna be offensive. I really wouldn't worry about it. If it was 10 years ago where it was a new thing, it was a little more risque. My grandmother's got tattoos, she's 86 years old, so it's not, you know, it's not a big deal anymore.
Yeah, I do that, but mine is more for stretch marks, C-section scars, scars that skin will not take a tan. I cover those and fix those. I don't cover many tattoos. I try to stay away from that because it does change in the stage lights and sometimes it doesn't look too good. And if you use someone who has no idea what they're doing, it's messed up.
I mean,
So I say no.
mine always looks good.
And it's just gonna make, you sit down, go back. But it's just gonna make that tattoo actually stand out more, and it's gonna smooth out your skin because you're putting so much tanner on top of it. You don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think twice about that. And today's competitor, a lot of tattoos on stage, that's not gonna affect your scoring. And what I always tell athletes, if you have you and your twin sister on stage and you're covered in tattoos and she isn't, we're gonna be able to see her physique better. But otherwise, it's not gonna affect you negatively, so don't stress about that.
Okay.
I haven't competed, but my wife's been competing for 5 years, so coming from this side, just to let you guys know about a lot of this stuff here. What a lot of you don't realize and hadn't been brought up yet is you're gonna be food depleted. You're gonna be dehydrated. You're gonna be tired. You're not in a position to make a great decision. I am my wife's personal handler from the time we leave home till we get back home. I tote her bags, I put her shoes on, I take her shoes off. I do everything for her because there's times that I can look at her face. There is nobody home. So how are you gonna make a good decision about how do I fix my hair? How do I dab on the tanning stuff? Trust me, these guys do a great job. And what I love the most about the bodybuilding world is unlike a lot of other competitors that you go to, there's always this little animosity. Well, I'm this team, I'm that team. Even years ago, I rode professional bull riding, and you still had bull riders that wouldn't help other bull riders. Everybody helps everybody in this world. Everybody loves on everybody. You can stop Mr. Allen and Mr. Steve walking down a hall, and they will immediately stop and get and do anything they can for you in this world. Even the tanning people, they will pull you out of line just before you get on stage to touch up something. But they're there to make this your best experience ever. You would not cheat your wedding day. Why would you cheat your first time on stage? Because I promise you, after being around my wife and seeing her on stage, I'm not sure my wedding day added up. To be completely honest with you.
Well, it's to piggyback
It's
what you
just
said.
something special. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you, there's something special about that moment. And like I said, I've just been an observer, but I can tell you, this is not the time to cut the corners. This is the time to enjoy this experience. It's something you'll remember for your whole life. So if you gotta spend a little extra to get there, How much did you spend in time you missed from work for the gym? How much extra did you spend on protein powders, pre-workouts, whatever, and you're gonna try to save $10 on tanning? Or you're gonna save $20 on hair and makeup? It just doesn't make sense. Let the pros do what they do, and they're there to help you, and I promise you, they're there to make this the best experience of your life. Everybody that is in that realm is there to make this the best thing you ever done.
I think the Piggy, thank you for adding that. You can always trust a guy wearing red overalls.
Y'all need to hire. Really convinced y'all need to hire.
He's applying it, clearly. But, you know, I mean, to piggyback what he's saying, two things. You know, you made a comment about being overly dehydrated and kind of a space cadet. You shouldn't be overly dehydrated. All right? This isn't the 1980s or 90s bodybuilding where you shouldn't be drinking water for the 24 hours, 48 hours leading into a show. You don't want to do that. Ladies, be very transparent. You should not be cutting your water out. You should not be taking diuretics. You do not want to be flat on stage, all right? You want to have a nice feminine physique. You want to see the muscle tone. If you're dehydrated, I can tell you it's not going to go well for you, especially as a novice competitor. 99% of you are not going to have the muscular development to even play those games. So don't. So I'm just telling you right now, when your coach is like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, think of me saying, hey, he said not to do that. And I can tell you, if you go through with it in hindsight, and we see this all the time, athletes say, oh, well, you know, I know I shouldn't have, but I did. Well, it's your body. Remember that. You got to take ownership. It is your physique. Be smart enough to realize that truly you do not want to go down that path. And if you're a male with a good amount of muscle mass and dense tissue, and you're in really good condition, that's one thing to consider, manipulating your water a little bit, but you got to be very mindful of that. But the other point that he brought up, and he's absolutely right about this, and clearly he's done a great job of this, this is a very stressful situation you're getting into. You have dieted 16, 20 weeks, you are depleted. Not that you should be overly dehydrated, but you are depleted. You're carb depleted, you're emotionally, psychologically exhausted, you've done all this work, like you said, to get to your big day. And that can be an overwhelming experience. When you throw in the packing, the traveling, tying up all the loose ends, all those different things, there's a psychological effect to it. Having the right person by your side is critically important. And his attitude about that, the way he's helped his wife, that's everything. And most of us has probably made this mistake. I have. I don't want to speak for these two guys. But, you know, when I competed, when I was doing national shows, I learned the hard way, as much as I love the mother of my children, even though we're divorced, she was not the right person to have around. Plain and simple. And so when I started competing at national level, I would fly her down separately with my brother, get her own room, and we would connect after prejudging, because I didn't need that stress in my life. Some people are going to be there, like he said, to hold your bags, to tie your shoes, to take care of you, to run to the store, to get you your water, to go heat up your food, whatever those things are. That's the person you want. Someone there that is there selflessly to help you, to carry your bags and do all those things. Anybody that's going to detract from that, you do not want that, because your body is so temperamental at that point. From the travel and all the other stressors, you want someone that's going to be able to help you 100% of the way. And we see it, especially with novice athletes, that they'll have, you know, the irritating brother there, or, you know, God bless all the moms out there, the over-anxious, over-the-top mom. She's not the one you want there. Love mom, all right? She might not be the one that you want to have there. So think about that as you're leading into a show and making your travel plans and everything else, because they can, you know, take away from the experience a little bit. And like he said, you work so hard, and it goes fast. It goes really fast. So be mindful of those types of things.
And to go along with what Jack said, you know, you've got these people that, you know, you're inviting your whole family to come watch you. And I almost try to tell all my competitors, like, don't invite, you know, Aunt Betty from the other state. Because at the end of the show, you want to get feedback from the judges. And they want to eat dinner. That is all they're thinking about. You're thinking about dinner too. But all of a sudden, you made this whole thing that, oh my gosh, I've gotten already, and hey, how did I do? And let me get some real feedback from the judges. But everyone's waiting to go eat. And all of a sudden, it doesn't become your day, it becomes their day. And so that very first show, it's like, you know what, you might kind of hedge some things, or no matter what, over push back, hey, we're going to end up eating at 10 o'clock at night. And it might be 11. But really make sure you have enough time to enjoy the full experience, from checking in, to prejudging,
to finals, and to even, I mean, just camaraderie with the other competitors. It's like, oh, you know, I gotta go talk to my family. It's like, you'll be amazed that first-time competitors, you're gonna connect with people backstage that you've never met before, and these people will become lifelong friends because we've all been in that same situation. It's like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten carbs in 2 weeks. We did this, and oh, how much cardio are you doing? It's very bonding because everyone else outside of this world has no idea why you're doing this, because they all think you're crazy. You're taking food to family functions, and they don't understand why. We understand why, you know, it's like, hey, I want to challenge myself. So make sure that you make it about your day, because it is a big day, besides getting married. It's one of the biggest days of your life, you know, and to kind of go along with that, I'm a big fan of like buying the pictures. The reason I say that is because you might become Miss Olympia, and you'll go, look where I started. You might never do this ever again. And go, when you're 85, you go, look what I used to look like. Either way, get those pictures, because it's a very momentous occasion, especially for that very first show. I mean, I look at my first pictures, that was in 1991. It's like, I don't look like that. But it's amazing.
The big thing, you know, you're talking about with family and stuff like that, I always say your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, husband, wife, is probably the biggest support team that you'll have there that weekend. Worst judges ever. But the best support team ever, you know, so, you know, we'll get to judging and all that here in a little bit, but, you know, be mindful of that. There are your support team, so's your coach and stuff. And I guess we can lead into maybe hiring a coach before the show.
Yeah, and one thing just to add to it, because we're talking about choosing the right, you know, canning situation, the other part is the host hotel. You know, everybody wants to save money, I totally understand that. Do yourself a favor, especially as a first-time competitor. Don't find the cheapest hotel 5, 10 miles away to stay at 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. Stay at the host hotel. I mean, number one, you want to be a part of the environment, you want to be a part of the action, but you want to be close. You don't want to miss anything, especially if the tanning company is at the host hotel, the makeup is at the host hotel. Stay at the host hotel. It really behooves you to be in the know, stay in the mix, be in that environment, and not be far away and put yourself in a bad spot where you might miss something. That's the last thing that you want. Any questions about that? Yeah.
Well, I want to say my husband's a bodybuilder, and I made a decision months ago. I said, I'd like to do that. So he said, wouldn't it be great if we both did a show? I said, no. I said, not first time, you're not doing anything. I said, I'm going to be selfish. This is for me, not for you. I want it to be my time. So he's doing his show this year, get his pro card. But I told him next year,
Take a seat.
you're not in it.
Yeah.
Trade on me,
Yeah.
because I want to trade on you.
Yeah, well, just like the gentleman in the back said, it's about you. You want to be the star of the show, and you want them to champion your cause. And
I don't know if it's selfish, but.
no, listen, this is the most selfish sport in the world. Be as selfish as you want. But yeah, typically couples competing in the same shows in the same season, that can be pretty problematic. I mean, unless you are just the most dynamic, wonderful couple in the world.
Maybe later, but right now.
Yeah,
my
especially for your
one,
first
I
time.
want
It's good to start.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. So that's a very, very good point that you make. Any other questions about the tanning, the host hotel, anything like that?
Families stay at the host hotel, or is it
Yeah.
just for, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they can get the room rate, so I mean, that's another benefit to it, so, yeah, that's definitely something, and we encourage that 100%.
I have a question. Is the NPC card, is it a one-time purchase, or do you have to purchase that card every time you register
It's a one-time purchase for the year.
for the year?
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you purchase it now, it'll go to the end of 2025.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that'll cover you for all your shows.
January 1st, you have good news.
It'll be a different color. No. Anything else? So, you know, another big part of this is obviously prepping for a show. And, you know, the contest prep is, to me, the most enjoyable but miserating part of it. And, you know, it takes a level of masochism to be a bodybuilder if you're really going to do it the right way. Because diving down for a show, you know, requires an extreme level of discipline. It alienates you from everything else in your life. Do not question that. And it's going to alienate you from your family, from social events. towards the end of the diet, it's gonna alienate you from high levels of work production and different things like that. You are gonna naturally be a little bit lesser at all these other things in your life because it's just biological, right? I mean, as you get lower and lower in body fat, your brain function and all the other things, your energy levels are gonna start to dwindle. And so you have to manage that accordingly. And so I guess the point that I'm getting at is that you wanna give yourself enough time for a prep. You know, it's not a 12-week thing. Probably if you're a new athlete, it's gonna be a 16-week to a 20-week thing. And so you wanna manage that accordingly. This is not something that you wanna rush. It's something that you wanna do very strategically and methodically so you're not stressing your body. Because it is gonna be a stressful situation towards the end of that prep. But the longer that you take to go into a contest prep, and the better you set yourself up for a contest prep, the more enjoyable it's gonna be, and the less stressful it's gonna be on your body, and the more muscle mass you're gonna maintain going through that prep. But if you find yourself having to get very aggressive during a contest prep, that means that you might not have done your homework. And something to consider is maybe the show that you have scheduled might not be the right show for you timing-wise. And that's okay. There are so many shows throughout the contest season. You know, we get fixated on a date, and I agree with that. I mean, pick your date, that's the target, that's what you're shooting for. But if your body's not agreeing with it, that's all right. Do not try to force your body to get there. If you have a coach just trying to force you to get there by doing something extreme, you need to pump the brakes a little bit and say, okay, hold on, what's going on here? What's the end game with this? Because there's other opportunities out there that are gonna make more sense for me long term, right? And so, you know, being a first-time athlete, you know, checking some of those boxes and figuring out, hey, what show makes sense for you? Do you need help going through a contest prep? The answer is yes. You definitely want to have some help because this is a very challenging thing to go through. We see athletes that want to prep themselves, even high-level athletes. And we can name some Olympians that try to prep themselves. It doesn't go well. Because it's a very challenging thing. When you get to a very low body fat, believe me, you do not want to inflict more misery on yourself. So you start making bad decisions to avoid some of that misery. So having an objective contest prep coach is going to help you guide you there the right way. And finding a contest prep coach is very, very important. And there's a lot of great coaches out there, and there's also there's a lot of great coaches, and there's some not so great coaches. And it's not just about coaching, it's about anything in life. There's good doctors, bad doctors, and everything that goes on in life. You got to find the right contest prep coach that makes sense for your situation, your personality, your goals, and those different things. I have athletes, specifically bikini athletes that come to me and they want my input on a coach. And it's like, well, what are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody that's very type A, very militant? They're not going to want to hear you're bitching, you're complaining, you're bullshit. They're going to tell you what it is. They're going to be very concise about it and have very, very high expectations. There's a guy, Team Atlas, James, and he'll tell you this himself. He is so type A, it can infuriate some people. But if you're somebody who needs that, he'll get you in the best shape of your life. If you're somebody that wants more of a personality type coach and is going to vibe with you and understand what you're going through and all those things, my good friend Cash, he's one of the best out there. Two extremely different coaches. And all you got to do is have a conversation with James, you're going to get it. This dude is just talking fast, moving fast, getting shit done. You have a conversation with Cash, he's the loudest, biggest personality in every room. And that's how he coaches. And a lot of women really love working with Cash and do very, very well with him. And a lot of women love working with James because they know that they are getting a certain level of coaching with him. Both work, but it's figuring out what is going to work best for you as an individual. And you need to be objective about that. I tell every athlete, reach out. I'll usually give people 3 coaches to reach out to and tell them a little bit about each, their pros and cons. Reach out to them yourselves. It's like a job interview. You know, and you ask them the questions you want to ask. What would they do? What would their process be? What do check-ins look like? What does the weekend of the show look like? How do you handle it? Will you be at that show? If you're going to be at this show, what's it going to cost me for you to be at this show? Because they ain't going for free, nor should they. And a lot of people will go with the kind of low-hanging fruit. Well, hey, my buddy, they did a show once, this and that. Those aren't contest prep coaches. They may help you for free, and that's okay, but they're only going to get you so far. And like we talked about, you've got to decide how much energy and effort you're putting into this and what you want the end result to look like.
I think communication with the coach is key. Back when I was competing, I hired one of the big name coaches that coached a lot of weekends and everything, had the worst communication that I ever had, and it didn't work out. And that's where it really opened my eyes, like he said, which personality of coach that you can communicate with, I think is just as important as a coach's credentials sometimes.
Yeah. I had a coach, when I did the Mr. Pittsburgh, I used a coach who's a well-known guy, incredible coach, got in incredible shape. But his approach was very, very low carb, tons of cardio, very aggressive. And I won the show. But when I did the show, I was completely flat. And I could go back and look at pictures, I was flat. I mean, irritatingly flat. Hated the pictures, I was so flat, even though I won the damn show. And I called him up afterwards, hey, won the show. And this guy was very stoked, very pragmatic. Won the show, great, here's what you're doing tomorrow. I mean, I was almost pissed he wasn't as happy as I was. but that was his approach, and I appreciate that. But I said, hey, I do have a concern. The carb up, the water manipulation, like it was too much for me. I was very flat the whole day, never got pumped, it wasn't very full, this and that, the other thing. Going into, it was Junior USA's 2 weeks later, I think we need to adjust that. He didn't listen to it. He sent me almost the same exact protocol. And I had to make a decision 24 hours before the show, like, am I gonna listen to this or am I gonna do my own thing? Now, I did my own thing knowing my body. I went to Panera the morning before Junior USA's and crushed a lot of good pastries. It worked out for me. I filled out nice, everything looked good. Well, my buddy came down there with me and he decided to follow suit. It didn't go well for him. But the point that I'm getting at is after that show, I bumped into a guy named Justin Compton who went on to be an incredible bodybuilder. And he actually came up and said something to me. He said, you know what, maybe you should think about this approach. And I'm like, oh, the light bulb went off because, I'm working with another guy, here's his approach. He focuses on more carbs, less this, less that, blah, 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 all the different things. And because of his recommendation, a light bulb went off and I ended up switching coaches. And no disrespect to those other coaches, because we did good things together, but I went down a different path with a different coach, and I got a better result for my body. And so, it's understanding what is that coach's process, and don't be afraid to talk to some of their athletes, or to even talk to some of their ex-athletes. What did you like? What did you not like? Give me some objective feedback. Here's what I'm thinking. And that's where you're going to really find out what's going on. It's like going on TripAdvisor. And don't look at the 5 rating quotes. Go down to the number 1, the number 2 stars, and see what that negative feedback is a little bit, and be more objective about that process so you put yourself in the best position possible. And if you're someone just getting into this and you do hire a friend of yours who's done 1 or 2 shows, that's okay. I'm not saying that's not the right path to take. There's benefit to that. They're going to be with you in and out the gym. They're local. They're a friend. You can trust them and all those different things. But understand there's levels to this. And we see that a lot at your show. I had a couple athletes come up to me who, without a doubt, had national level pro potential. And they did really well at the show. But they needed to take a big step up to really compete at a national level. And I pulled them aside and we talked and this and that. And I said, who are you working with? And they mentioned their friend who was kind of that example. Yeah, so-and-so, they've done a couple shows, they're just getting into it and this and that. And I said, listen, love that for you, love that for them. But there's levels to this. You want to win your pro card, you want to go to a national show and be recognized, you need to work with a national level pro style coach because those are the ones that are going to get you there. I'm not saying don't continue to use your friend, but if you do, you're not going to get the same result as if you're going to that next level. So you have to be mindful of that. There is levels to this. And being novice athletes, just getting into it, you don't have to go hire Honey Rambot if you're a bodybuilder right now. That would be a great experience, but he can only get so much out of you anyways, right? But just understand the path that you're taking is going to obviously have a big result on what the expectation of result is that you get on stage. And another thing to think about with the coaching side is, especially as a female and a male, do they cover posing or not? Because those are 2 separate things. Getting in shape for a show is one thing. Getting on stage and how to manage yourself on stage and owning that stage presence is a whole nother thing. And we see athletes all the time who have a great physique, they're in great shape, but they couldn't hit a back double bicep or a front lat spread to save their lives. And they have somebody who's maybe not in as good a shape or doesn't have as good as physique, but their stage presence is a 10 out of 10, and the judges go that way. And I'm looking at Tim over here who just snuck in. Tim is the king of stage presentation. All right, if you are smooth on stage, especially as a classic physique guy, that's going to win you points for sure. But if you have a wonderful physique and you can't hit a single pose to save your life, you're going to leave yourself open to some criticism there. You need to have somebody come in who really does pose well, and maybe they aren't as big as you, but they fit the aesthetic of that division that can kind of push past you a little bit, especially on the female side, where it's not about necessarily development in some of those other things. We see girls, especially in the novice class or in the true novice class, that their physiques are maybe kind of comparable. One might be a little bit better, but this girl's stage presence is like, wow, she's been competing for a long time, and that gives them the edge. So when you're talking to these coaches is, what's the diet process like? What is the cost? Are you at the show? What are the pros and cons? Talk to their other athletes, their ex-athletes, whatever you can do, get as much information as you can. And then what do they do for posing? And a lot of them have posing coaches that they work hand in hand with. And that's a very important thing, because your presentation matters tremendously on stage, without a doubt.
It's actually the only thing they'll judge. They're not gonna watch you work out. They're not gonna watch you eat food. They're not gonna watch you do cardio. They're only gonna watch you present yourself. And if, you know, I'm not a big guy. And if I walked up there like this, they're gonna say, well, he's not that big. They're gonna write me off. But if I walk out there like this, they're gonna go, he ain't that small, okay. And so whenever I competed, they never saw anything smaller than this as a bodybuilder, because I'm a small guy. But if I ever showed them this, like, I don't even look at them. So they would never say that. You get off stage, okay, I'm not doing that. And with all the other women's divisions, like, you show them what you want them to see.
Yeah.
Do not show them what you do not want them to see. They'll go along with the opposing classes when you get to that.
We've been to a lot of shows, and I'll see a head judge, like Jack or something, and we'll have two girls be figured, for example. They'll turn around, one of them will have the back open, the other one won't. But the one that doesn't is probably the best one to show. So I saw him actually run them through a set of poses again, because he's hoping the second time, maybe they'll open up and show that.
And we'll say, all right, we'll give her one more shot. And she turns around, can't get her scapulars out, and look nice and wide, she lost it. And they'll come off stage, we'll tell them not to take it over, but we'll tell them, hey, we gave you another shot, that's why we turned you around again, you couldn't get your back out. That cost you winning the class.
If that girl would open her back, that would have been your winner, probably moved on to the overall.
Yeah. And it's tough, because as you're prepping for a show, again, it's a very challenging thing, you're depleted, you're tired going into that process. Start posing now. Like, even if you're not doing the show till next year, start posing now. Work on your footwork, work on those quarter turns, and you don't have to go like over the top with it, but just work on the motion of it. Make it fluid, make it look nice and smooth, and then, you know, kind of gradually add more and more to it. But if you wait to pose towards the end of your prep, you're screwed. You're gonna be too tired, you're gonna be too depleted. It's not gonna work the way that you want to. So if you're starting a contest prep now, 20 weeks out, you should be putting in time every day, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day before you go to bed, just working on your quarter turns, working on the motion of hitting that back double bicep, that front lat spread, whatever those things are. So by the time that you get closer and closer to it, you have the foundation of the posing already in place. And then as your body changes, you can start tweaking the posing. What your foot angle is, what your hip position is, how your elbows are placed in some of these different things. But if you're trying to figure that out a month before the show, when you're on minimal carbs and you're doing 45 minutes, an hour and a half of cardio, good luck to you. It is not gonna go the way you want. And I know these guys and myself, I mean, we tell athletes all the time, like, you need to be doing this year round. Even when you don't look good, you don't have to, do it, with your posing suit on, doing your t-shirt and shorts. Just go through the motions, constantly go through those motions.
And I think your posing will change as you get closer to the show, because more detail comes out, stuff like that. Could be your hand position, where you're standing, what angle you're at. It will change as you get in better shape closer to the show. It will change.
Where do you find all like the rules and regulations for posing, like on what website? Because I know like there's a list of them, of like what
NPC News Online, come across the taskbar, says rules, click on that. It'll have a drop-down bar, pick, if you're a bodybuilder classic, click on that, read that whole page. That has everything you need to know about that division.
everything the judges are judging.
Yes, everything we're looking for is on that one page.
And the other best way to do it, if you're looking for a visual, is go to a show 100%, but, go to the Olympia results and look at the top 5 and just go click for click. Look at their front double bicep, look at their side chest, look at their side tricep, look at their back double bicep, and see what those guys are doing. Those are the guys, those are the girls that are doing it at the highest level and are doing it the right way. Right? So that's a good way to kind of get a visual representation of what that should look like aesthetically. And it may be a little bit different, like Alan said, depending upon your body type and different things, your shoulder width, your hip width, angles matter. And that's the nuance of posing, is it's your opportunity to show yourself in the absolute best light. Right? Some of you guys shouldn't be hitting a front ab shot like Derek Lunsford. You don't have his shoulder width, you don't have his small waist, you don't have his quad sweep. So you might have to play with that angle a little bit different. And again, being conditioned, be able to make those changes as you're already depleted because you have the base of that down, and working with a good posing coach can make a big, big difference for you.
And when we're at a show, we're looking, like Jake said, we're looking for Olympia is what we're looking for. Problem is, Derek Lunsford didn't show up to that show. And this is what we had to choose from, is these 6 guys on stage. And this guy looks more like a men's physique, this guy could be a classic, this guy's a bodybuilder. Well, you kind of have to sift through those. That's the reason I always tell everybody, if you're doing a show, do a couple of different divisions, figure out where you fit best. but be mindful, we can only judge what is standing in front of us. You know, that's, you know, the criteria of the class may not be standing there in front of us, but we still have to judge what's in front of us.
Good question.
Yes. Are there different poses based on the division?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're in figure, if you're in bikini, women's physique, there's definitely different poses. Yeah. But if you're in bikini and you're doing novice, true novice, the open class, they're all the same poses within that division. Yep. You guys have any other questions as far as the contest prep side of it goes? Are you all still excited or like, yeah, maybe this is...
Scared them off.
And the idea is to give you as much objective information as we can. Because our goal is that, number one, you know, you do this the right way, you get as much out of it as you can, and you're as prepared as you possibly can be. That's the most important thing. And as novice athletes, it's your first time competing, you know, and we all, God bless us, you know, have a little bit of an ego and have a little bit of delusions of grandeur, and we all want these big expectations, which is great. And I applaud that, but also be objective and be realistic that it's your first show. And like Alan said, you know, if you're not really sure where you fall into it, if you're a guy and, you know, you want to be a men's bodybuilder, but, you know, maybe you don't have the legs that you need yet to be a really competitive men's bodybuilder, well, doing classic or even doing men's physique is not a bad thing to do. And sometimes, you know, as guys, we get this ego, like, I'm not wearing board shorts. It's like, well, listen, buddy, you don't have a quad suit to save your life. And if you did men's physique, you might have won this class. And that's pretty damn cool, because men's physique is crazy competitive. Actually, at the Olympia level, it's the most competitive, because there's so many physiques up there that look that good. So don't, you know, let your ego tell you that you shouldn't do that. Same thing with women's bikini. You know, you have three options now. You have women's bikini, you have the fit body bikini, and you also have wellness. You know, and a lot of gals are like, well, I'm bikini. I'm like, well, the Lord bless you with a lower body that you are not bikini. And so, and that's not a bad thing. Again, it's being objective and saying, hey, here's my structure, here's my genetic potential, here's what my mom looks like here's where this is kind of going, whether I want it to go that way or not, and taking ownership of that. Because a lot of times we'll have a conversation with a female and they're like, well, I want to be bikini. It's like, okay, that's all right, but understand what now your training and diet looks like for the rest of your life while you do this. You will always be under eating to some degree because you can't build any more muscle. You'll never be able to train heavy and hard because you can't build any more muscle. You might not ever be trained legs again because you already have too much muscle. So if that's what you want, you know, your career to look like, then hey, push yourself to be in bikini, even though genetically, structurally, you may never fit into that anyways, versus embracing it. And so a lot of times it's like, you're not going to be on stage for a couple minutes, but you're going to go into the gym 5-6 days a week for the rest of your life. Right? And so, you know, we all get into this because we love training, we love going to the gym, and it evolves into something else. You got to remember that on the back end of that. That's what you're going to be doing day in and day out, you know, preparing for these shows. So, you know, like Alan said, you know, give yourself opportunity and talk to the judges. You know, don't be afraid to reach out. If you see us at a show, you got pictures on your phone, hey, what do you think I fit best into? We'll always give you objective feedback, and you might get the answer that Alan says, hey, you know what? You're a novice, you're new to this, you know, you still have a ways to go. Try both and see how you fall. And the other side of that too is, you've just killed yourself to get in the best shape you can to do a show. Get on stage as much as you can. Get as much experience as you can. I understand that there's a cost to it, and the more classes that you do, the more expensive it's going to be, but a lot of these promoters sometimes give you help with that, the more classes you do. But you're going to get more experience, you're going to figure out what division, what class fits best for you, and you're going to have a better experience. Avoid doing, you know, the novice wellness class or whatever it might be, and you're sitting in the first, second row watching thinking, oh, could have won that class. But, you know, it was $125, and, you know, I decided I wasn't going to do it, or this one said maybe I shouldn't, and you just detracted from your own experience. So, you know, I always tell people, do as many classes as you can, and always do more than one show. Again, 16, 20 weeks of dieting like this, your first time on stage is going to be very overwhelming. Your body's not going to react and agree with you the way that you want. It's just the way that it goes most of the time. And so the first time you get on stage, you get those jitters out. Get on stage as much as you can, do as many classes as you can, and try to do a show, you know, 2 weeks after that if it lines up that way. Usually you take a week, you know, a few days for your body to kind of get through the glycogen that you've taken in from all the shit that you've eaten over the next 24 hours. Get back into a rhythm with that diet, and then you end up coming back looking even better for that second show. So if you can pick a show 2-3 weeks after that first show, that's kind of that sweet spot. You start going further than that, it does start to get a little bit stressful on the body and on the psyche, but it's definitely worth doing more than one show. I mean, there's no two ways about that.
big thing after, doing a couple shows, I know he said, I want you to step back and look at yourself and be comfortable in your own skin too. Pick out somebody that you want to look like, that's what you need to train. It's your body, so if you want one of these girls, like lifting weights and wants to go into maybe women's physique, hey, that's perfectly fine. So be mindful that you can sculpt your body however you want. So.
Any other questions as far as that stuff goes?
So does your coach really help you with that as well, of like determining what class and what
Yeah.
division you should?
Absolutely. I mean, a good coach should be directing you and helping you, guiding you on all the things. Without a doubt, I mean, high-level coaches, they'll be able to look at your physique, your bone structure, where you're at developmentally wise, and say, hey, this is going to make sense for you. Or, hey, we can go down this path, but here's what you're up against. And that's the one thing, when I was coaching athletes, I would always be very objective. Like, hey, we're going to go into this show, here's what this is going to look like, here's the competition level, here's the expectation with this. The last thing you want to do, and I love a coach who wants to pump you up, like you're going to win the Olympia this year, but you don't want to give somebody false expectations. You want to be objective with them, and you need to be objective with yourself too. Your coach should be your cheerleader, but you need to know what you're getting into. It's like, hey, you know what, you're a little bit underdeveloped, the weight class goes up to 198 pounds, you're coming in at 181 pounds, you're giving up 15, 18 pounds of muscle, you're in crazy good shape, but you're the smallest guy on stage. And this just isn't a conditioning contest. So even though you're most conditioned, you may come down and say, hey, yeah, man, you want to work for most conditioned. But you turn around, your back is flat, you have no chest depth, it might be this, that, the other thing. Great job on the conditioning wise, but you need another 2 years before you're really going to be at the top of this class. And I use myself as an example for that. When I started competing, I started as a lightweight. I weighed at 156, won a couple shows. Then I took 2 years off because I was not a fast grower. I did my second season as a middleweight, and I weighed in around I don't know what it was, 170. The next year I competed, I was at the top of the middleweight class, and I won those classes. And I know from going from a middleweight to a light heavyweight was going to take a considerable amount of time. So I took another 2 years off, not 1 year, 2 years off. And this ideology, this conversation that you need to be on stage, the judges need to see you, no, we don't. I mean, to be very honest with you, I love you all, you're all beautiful, wonderful people, but I'm not going to remember you after I judge you, not until you're a pro and I'm seeing you all the time. We don't need to see you. You need to let your body grow. You need to let your body recover. You need to maintain the other things in your life, your job, your family, your other responsibilities, more important, to be honest with you, and give yourself enough time to do that. And that's what I did. So when I talked about doing the Mr. Pittsburgh, when I did the Mr. Pittsburgh, I didn't do that show till I knew I was going to be at the very top of my weight class. And then even after I won the Mr. Pittsburgh, I knew that I was going to have to be a heavyweight class when I started competing at national shows. And that's how I got into judging. As I won the Mr. Pittsburgh, I knew it was going to be a while before I got back on stage. So I called Gary Ute and said, hey, how can I be involved? I'll take tickets, I'll sweep the floors, I'll clean the toilets. I'm not going to be back on stage for a long time, but I absolutely love this. I want to be involved any way I can. And, that's why I'm sitting here now today in this capacity to some degree. So be objective with your physique, your development, and everything else. And a good coach, they should be telling you those same things. And if they're not, you might want to take a step back and say, hold on, is this really making sense or not? Because again, you're paying them for a service. It's just like if you're paying somebody to cut your grass, all right? They're not cutting your grass the way you want them to. You might want to have a conversation about what that looks like, okay?
The coach works for you. And with that, I'm talking too, sometimes a lot of coaches will build you up, stuff like that. But I've always said, since I've been around, is Amazon is ruined bodybuilding. Everybody's like, what's that mean? Everybody wants a pro card tomorrow before 12. So they're going to say, yeah, all you need to do is this one show, you do True Novice on that, and then we're going to go straight get your pro card. Guys, put some stair steps in there. Win your local state show, or your Mr. Pittsburgh, your Mr. Tennessee, or Mr. Georgia, that pick like the largest show in that state, try to win that. Work on steps, up to that. There's very few people that can do one show, get qualified, go to one of the nationals or junior national shows, get a pro card, and have any kind of career as a pro.
Yeah.
It's very, very broad.
It's a process. If you try to rush this process, you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to be around long. I was having dinner last night with Becky Clausen, who was in here for a little bit. She was not only a figure pro, but a bikini pro. And she had said last night, she's like, honestly, I wish I would have not taken my pro card when I won it, and would have just stayed in the national ranks competing for another year or two. because I was very competitive as a national competitor. I placed at most of the shows. I was in the mix all the time, getting compared. But I earned my pro card at nationals, which was a very prestigious thing to do, especially back then when her and I were competing. And she earned her pro card, started competing as a pro, and she just didn't match up. She didn't have the physique, she didn't have the muscularity, the divisions were evolving past her, and even though she competed for a few more years, she never got the joy out of it that she did when she was competing as an amateur. And again, that's being objective, and sometimes you don't learn that until, after the fact. But now you have people like ourselves being a little bit more objective and transparent with you. Now you guys have access to the information and the judges and the promoters that will tell you some of this feedback. Because as judges and officials and promoters, we'd rather see you competing for the next 10 years, enjoying this process, than beating yourselves up, trying to speed up the process, doing things, taking things that you think are going to get you there overnight, burning yourself out, burning through expenses. I mean, we've heard talk to people about, doing contest prep on a credit card. Don't do that. Don't go into debt for a bodybuilding show, right? So be strategic. Like Alan said, there are stepping stones of this. And if you go through that, you'll have a longer, healthier, more fulfilling career. And that's what we want for you. The one thing that we don't want is you and your pro card, and your coach is like, hey, we're getting on the pro stage next year. You show up, do one show, and we're like, yeah, you weren't ready for this. That's why you're in the fourth call out. Like, you don't have the physique, you don't have the muscularity. We're great, we're wonderful that you're a pro, but you're not a pro competitor yet. You need to take a step back, take a couple years off. And that's very hard for people to hear because, quite honestly, they've been lying to themselves, or they've been lied to about really where they're at. So we tell everybody, you want some objective feedback. This is called the truth story, okay? We will always give you the truth on where you're at, whether you want to hear it or not, because, we don't want to see you guys get owned by this. And there's really two paths with this. You can either take ownership of it or let it own you and not have the experience you want sometimes. And that is hard to do in this industry because of what it is. You're being judged, and you want to be judged favorably, so you want to do the things, as much as you can to get that right score and that right call out. But there's just a process, and it takes time, and you can't rush your body. I don't care who you are. You cannot rush your body. It will only cause you more harm.
It's the only sport ever saw people get in the best shape of their life, and they go up to one of us and go, hey, what's wrong with me? And
Literally.
Take that in stride.
Yeah.
So I have friends that have taken years to get their pro card, and I have seen where people have won their pro card after one show. How does that happen?
Just an individual genetic structure, muscular development thing.
A little luck in there.
I'll probably bring this up in my talk later this afternoon, but I was always objective. God bless my father for beating that into me. But I was always objective about what was going on. When I was getting further into my competitive career, I knew that my body was only going to grow so much. And I was putting a lot of stress on my body to be a heavyweight. And when I got up to 250, 255 pounds, my body's like, yeah, this is not cool for you. I mean, it showed me in every way. And I had made the decision before my last contest prep doing North Americans that this was probably going to be it wherever it went. And I was very close to winning my pro card. The show before that at Masters Nationals, lost by 1 point the last couple of years. And I was backstage, and I was talking to this young kid who was just a mutant. His name was Nick Walker. And this was a young Nick Walker. And I'm like, man, what are you coming down? He's like, like 275. And I'm like, what did you weigh? He goes, like 224. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this kid, how old was he then? I don't know, 23 at the time? And here I am into my 30s, literally putting my body under a lot of stress, a lot of harm, just trying to get to this point. I'm weighing in at 219. I look better than him. He beat me by 1 point, but not, whatever. But that was just one of those things where it's like, hey, listen, man, like, your body's where it's at. Like, this is as far as you're going to go. And I had to make that decision, even though I was really close to earning my pro card, that even if I win my pro card, there's nothing I can do with it. I know that I can't compete with these guys. And at that point, classic physique wasn't a thing yet, so maybe it would have been. But even then, I knew that I got as much out of my physique as I can. And the point that I'm making is, genetically, I might have a decent bone structure and might have gotten crazy good shape, but I didn't have the potential to get as big as Nick Walker to compete on a pro stage. And so as the story goes, he goes on to win the Arnold and does incredible things, and now I'm here wearing a sport coat talking about what he's doing. But that's okay, and I'm totally okay with that because I always put other doors in front of me throughout my competitive career to enjoy this process. And so, to answer your question, it's an individual thing. And that doesn't make it less or more for anybody else, it's just the path. There's a reason Lee Haney and Sid and Linda are 8-time Olympians. They are the genetic anomalies. And, you know, again, kudos to all of you, but the reality of one of you guys being that is very, very, very slim. And that's okay. And maybe you do get there, but it takes you 10, 15 years to get there. Enjoy that. Don't try to rush it because you're gonna rob yourself of the enjoyment of it.
Thank you.
Yeah?
So what if you are ready for the show, or maybe probably a month prior to, and you're like, you know what, I need more time? Can you utilize that registration for next year, or you have to pay again?
You know, that's an individual promoter-based thing, but typically, you know, you'll have to pay again. You know, because if it's one thing, like God forbid, there's, you know, some one-off situation where you can't be there because of an emergency or something like that, then, you know, these guys, Tim, Alan, Steve, I mean, they're just, you know, the most wonderful people in the world. They'll do whatever they can to help you. But if you're like, I'm gonna bag this for next year, it don't work that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So get that idea out of your head. All right? Get committed. You're doing it. You're doing it.
Prejudging, how did that work?
Yeah, so to get into judging, the pre-judging is where it's all at. I mean, that is the most critical part of the entire event. That is where you're going to be judged. That's where you're going to be compared. The night show is really just a ceremony, the kind of pageantry of it, where you get awarded for all your hard work. Rare cases, we will rejudge people at some of these shows, but typically that's a very rare thing unless it's a national qualifying show or a pro show. But typically for regional shows, your work is going to be at pre-judging. And so that's where you're going to come out, do your comparisons, you're going to be online with everybody, you're going to hit your mandatory poses, you'll also do your individual routines, and then we'll take you back out for your total comparisons. And so that's where it really, really matters. And 95% of the time, we see people come to pre-judging flat, over depleted, their body's just stressed out because they didn't sleep the night before, or they tried to manipulate their water, whatever those things are. And there's a lot of stress to it, especially your first time, and your body just reacts the way it reacts. And so, you know, you get off stage after pre-judging, you come back for the night show after you've had a burger or something good to eat, you got all that sodium back in you, and we say it almost every time, wow, they filled out, they look a lot better. You know, so we tell them, listen, like, you got to figure out a way to produce that same look at pre-judging as you did for the night show.
Yeah. I've said 100 times, you know, it is so hard for someone to eat burger and fries, you know, the night before the show, because that ain't what you got it on. So you're trying to stay safe. Then after pre-judging, they go have burger and fries, come back to the night show, and their whole physique can change. But, you know, that's one of those trial and errors. Got to figure out what works, what doesn't.
And the burger and fries thing, that's been like a cliche meal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go have a burger and fries,
That's
but
just
yeah.
what we always say.
But like I told you-
Lunch midnight, you know.
Yeah, but like I said, going into Junior USA is I knew that I was going to be flat and depleted, so I made a decision before pre-judging to do a carb load on my own because I knew that I was flat and depleted, and I knew that if I came out flat and depleted for pre-judging, I had no shot. So yeah, you have your pre-judging in the morning typically. You're going to go through all those paces, comparisons, individuals, getting compared again. That's for every class that you're in. Typically there's kind of a break between. You'll get 3, 4, 5 hours. Typically pre-judging will start at 8, 9 o'clock, and the night show will start at 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And that's where you come back out. It does move a little bit faster. We might do a confirmation, or you might come in, hit a couple poses, do your routine, then you come back out and you get your awards, and you get to enjoy your burger and fries and the cheesecake and all the things that you might want.
And actually, to go along with that, one of the biggest things, because a lot of people think, well, hey, I didn't look that good, but then also, or really the next day, on Sunday, y'all look phenomenal, and you ate, 5 entrees. It wasn't really the food as much as those stress levels. Stress is a mother, and you want to retain some water, stress out.
Yeah.
And so when you realize, oh, I don't have a show, I feel good, all of a sudden you just shred it up immediately. And I tell people, this is what's going to happen the day of your show. Your very first show, the worst thing that's going to happen, it should be the best you've ever looked in your entire life. They're going to take pictures of you. That's it. If you think of it that way, you're going to look great and you're going to have a good time. You cannot control who shows up. Miss Olympia shows up, whew, okay, you win. You can't control that, so don't even worry about the competition, because you have nothing, and it's not in your hands, it's in his hands. Let him do his job, you do your job. Your job is to go up there and look the best you've ever looked.
Yeah.
Again, that's all that's going to happen. If it's the best you've ever looked, how bad of a day is this going to be?
Winning the game of life. Well, going back to control those things that you can do, your hair, makeup, suit, tan, those things are in your control. So definitely 100% with that, your mindset. control that. And like you said, the cards will fall where they are, but when you control that, you guys win. Especially best, I mean, you won in the game of life. Look at the accomplishment you made, you know?
It's something to do, you know, how many of you have been to a show before? Most of you, if you haven't, go to a show. Try to go to a couple shows. Sit down, watch it, understand the flow of a show, you know, when they're walking on stage, how they're walking off, what the judges are calling, how they're moving people around. Immerse yourself in that experience. Then after that, literally, visualize yourself doing that same thing. I mean, lay in bed at night, close your eyes, imagine yourself walking on stage, getting the box, doing your routine, hitting your poses, controlling your breathing, the whole thing from start to finish. The more that you are in that moment, the less stress, the less anxiety that you're going to have. And this may sound funny, but when I decided to do the Mr. Pittsburgh, and back in my day, that was the show, Jim Manion's show, like that was it. I mean, I convinced myself that I'm doing this and I'm winning this, it does not matter. That was back in the day when Dave Palumbo would do the post interviews. And so I kid you not, oh, they were the best.
I've done that show.
And I would literally visualize myself giving my interview afterwards.
Good for you.
And so when I did the interview, everyone's like, I can't believe how you write. I'm like, I've been rehearsing this for months. I had this thing down. But all joking aside, by the time that I got on that stage, and I had gone to that show every year, I mean, I knew it inside and out, I was so mentally prepared for that show that it wasn't an overwhelming experience for me because I had already gone through it so many times. And to a lot of people, that may sound funny or corny, but I can tell you it can make a big, big difference. And when you're working with a opposing coach or you're working with your coach, you know, they should be setting up scenarios where you're going through that. Having a line down on the floor and saying, okay, competitor number 1 switch competitor number 2, front double bicep, competitor number this, competitor number that. Walking on the stage, going to the box, how you're walking off the stage, all those different things. And even preparing for what it's like backstage. Waiting in line, inside stage, and all those different experiences. And hey, you know, if you're doing Dave Lieberman's show coming up in, you know, how many weeks, it's one of the biggest natural shows that there is. You know, he gets 300-400 competitors. You're going to be backstage for a little bit. Relax. Bring your stuff with you. Lay down. Kick your feet up. Take a deep breath. Make sure you have all your food with you. Put yourself in a good mental state because your body's going to go where your mind leads it. And if you're angst, if you're tired, if you're fatigued, guess what? Your body starts going down. So I always say that to all the athletes. One of the most irritating things I would hear athletes say is, I just can't wait till this is over. It's like, what? You have killed yourself to get here. You just want this to be over. Don't do that. I mean, be in the moment, pump yourself up. Bring your headphones, bring your music, you know, talk to your coach. If you need to bring a little pre-workout or whatever it might be to like get you going, get going. Get that fucking blood pumping, get moving, be alive, be alert, be excited about it, but there's a time and a sequence to that. All right, you don't want to be so amped. I've seen guys do this. They get so amped up by the time they're on stage.
They fall out.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, they're so excited that they just flatten out so quick. And so, you know, being as in the moment, as prepared as you can for that is really, really important. A good contest prep coach will help you do that. And going to these seminars is just tremendous value. So, I mean, the more of these that are in your state, in your backyard, go to them. Go to all of them. Even if you don't know the people, just show up and go to them because you're going to learn something. It's going to be more of an experience for you, and you're going to meet other people. Like they were saying, the community that you build here, it's going to be huge when you get backstage. You see people that you've already met, and they're going through what you're going through, and you have that shared experience, and it's going to bring your anxiety down real quick, because you're not going to be the only one out there wearing next to nothing. Everyone else is, and they're all feel the same damn way about it, okay?
Big thing in Tennessee, I don't know if it was happening up in, north or down south where she lives. There was never anything like this that I'd ever went to or even heard about. You would find one guy or girl in the gym that competed, kind of pick their brain a little bit, try to figure out what's going on. But I agree 100% with Jack. If there's a workshop at the Steve Gym down this way, or you look online on one in Tennessee or South Carolina, go to those workshops because they're going to be someone else talking about what we're talking about, and they may say something totally different and just click with you. But try to go to the workshops. I think it's fun. Everybody in here has something in common, and we enjoy coming to them also.
First time, sorry I came in late, guys. I was supposed to be 2 places at one time, but,
That's how special she is.
Yes.
This is Mo Newman,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you. First time, welcome to the But for first time shows, I was talking across next door about this. Prep for a show, and you just remember that do all this stuff, and you get ready for the show, and then you end up going to the hotel room because you've been busy, you've been balls to the wall and getting ready. When we get to that hotel room, I always want to share this with people. Then we finally stop. It's the night before the show, where you're supposed to relax and get everything together. Your mind can play tricks on you. Okay, so I always say make sure you're mentally prepared for that. Because like with life, you're just like full speed, 55 miles per hour, and then all of a sudden we're parked. And we're in that hotel room waiting for that next morning. One of the things I advise is make sure to plan for that quiet moment. Bring a book. Do not bring somebody that does not understand or respect what you're doing, because they can bring you down and those cortisol levels can shoot through the roof, which aren't good for, you know, your physique look. So your favorite book or just some good stuff to keep that mind at peace when you're there the night before, because that's real important for that next morning to be proper for yourself. Make sure you got the suit in order, your tan, all that stuff. I advise you did all that hard work. Don't just sit there. I would pose and stuff, but you might not want to always just be staring in the mirror in the bathroom, because the bathroom lights really suck in hotel rooms. Okay, so you can kind of look washed out. You guys, I played mind tricks on my first show, and it was not fun, so I learned from that. I always like to tell people, we have this busy mind, and then we stop in that hotel room. So prepare for that quiet time, because it could really be peaceful for you and allow you to really realize you really focus on that progress instead of perfection, and you really nailed it and you had fun. Meet a friend, get a new person. These people have been a part of my community for a long time, go way back. So make sure to really dial into those wonderful things that this bodybuilding show can really deliver for you, for your life too.
She brings up a great point with that. When you're in a contest prep, like she said, you're going 100 miles an hour. You're checking every box. And that's one of the things that we love about it, is you're so regimented. Getting up at the same time every day, you're doing the same amount of cardio, the food, the subs, the posing. I mean, you're checking all these boxes, 100 miles an hour. Then all of a sudden, it's like 3-4 days before a show, it all stops. And that can mess with you mentally.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it the right way, that's what it should be, because, 48 hours, 3 days before the show is about recovering and letting your muscles fill back out, letting that water come down a little bit, letting your legs recover from all the pounding that you put in your body through over the last how many months of hard work. And so that can kind of be, a mind trick, like you said, because all of a sudden, you're pumping the brakes and you're like, no, it's go, 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 go. If you go, 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 go all the way up to the show, you're going to go right past the show, and it's not going to look the way that you want to. So you bring up a great point about being mentally prepared for that, but things should slow down. And if you've done this contest prep the right way, and you're with the right coach, your plan shouldn't change dramatically. If you're waiting for this big peak week experience, and they give you like this, hey, we're going 5 gallons to 4 gallons to this gallons, we're going to add this, we're going to take away this, and here's a couple new foods for you, all sorts of red flags there. I mean, as many consistent things as possible. It should be all constants, with maybe a little bit of manipulation on how much of what you are having. Maybe you're going from having a gallon of water every day to maybe a half a gallon of water, right? Something like that. Or maybe you're having 150 grams of carbs a day, or maybe you're carb loading for a day or two and then cutting them back down. But if you're typically having rice, for your main carbs and, rice cakes, and all of a sudden, hey, we're going to throw sweet potatoes into this, and you haven't had them for 3 months, that's concerning. Right? If you've been dieting on chicken and fish, and it's like, hey, we're going to switch, I want you to have a 12-ounce steak before you go to bed, ask a question why. Is going to take to this or not? And they may have a reason. They may say, well, no, we want the red meat, we want the fast, we want a little bit more sodium. That can make sense, but ask those questions. Because if the week of, you get this, whole new meal plan and program that's got a bunch of stuff from left field, listen, anything you change in your body, what's the first reaction it does? Holds water. You change the environment you're in, change the room temperature you're in, change the food you're in, change the water, any of that. Your body's first reaction is to hold water. When you're already, 100%, when you're already depleted and everything else, your body is in this very reactive state. So as many constants as you can leading into that final week and leading into the final 24 hours.
That mental prep. I always say it's like this very complex computer between our ears, and we don't have a manual for it. The most complex computer on the planet. So allow this show, and make sure for first timers, make sure that this doesn't become your identity. Make sure it's a part of you and not all of you, because you'll fall short in life too. I've been fortunate to compete for a very long time, and then also go on the other side of the stage now, to be on it. And it's served me well in both arenas. So make sure to serve yourself well, get the right trainer like Jack was saying, but make sure you realize that trainer works for you. It's not the other way around, okay? So you get that constant communication, and make sure, because there's a bunch of them out there, so make sure they understand you and respect where you're coming from, because not all of us are the same. It's not cookie cut style. And make sure that, I always tell people too, there's always a show on the calendar. You know, so if we fall short, we can always try and get into another show, okay? So, but I like to always have a show date, but if you fall short, something happens, there are speed bumps in life. And that's just the way it is. But mentally prepare yourself for that and make sure that trainer works for you properly.
We went over, get your NPC card, get ready for the show, get your tan, get your hotel. I want to briefly go over check-ins really quick to kind of go over how that works. You've already registered online and everything. The promoter usually sets registration, she cuts it off, usually on Wednesdays, usually around 5 o'clock, something like that. So you won't be able to register after Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
The week of the show?
The week of the show. So that week of the show, that gives them a couple of days to get paperwork and stuff situated. So let's say you go to check-ins. The check-ins are going to be at the venue. So you go to the venue, you'll see the entranceway in. The very first thing they're going to ask you to see your NPC card. So you have your NPC card, you'll show them your NPC card, and they will look up your name through all those paperwork, and they have 100 people in the show. They'll thumb through there, find your name, make sure everything looks okay, hand you the paperwork. You'll take the paperwork, you'll walk down to the next station, would be probably height and weight. So that's where you'll get your height and weight done. This is a perfect time. If they say you're 5'4", you don't agree with it, say, hey, I like to have that done again. Because normally I think I'm 5'5". And they'll do it again, they say, no, I'm sorry, you're 5'4". You say, okay, that's what it is. But that's your spot to, have them to recheck it or something. They'll write down what it is. You'll take your paperwork, they hand it back to you. You'll go down to a table where most likely there'll be some girls take the paperwork and give you a number. All the numbers are predetermined, they're already passed out on the paperwork. So you'll hand your paperwork in, they say, hey, I got you a True Novice and Novice, is that correct? And you can say, yes, but I'd like to add open. That's a great time for you to add a class. So, you give them money, $100, $105, whatever the class is. You'll pay there, they'll add you in that class, they'll hand you your competitor number, and they will take your paper. You are not in the show until you hand someone this paper. That paper does not go back to the hotel room with you. It has to be turned into someone. That tabulator that takes that paper on that is one putting you in the computer. If she doesn't have the paper, you're not in the show. I want to really stress that. A lot of people get their paperwork, they get their height plate, and they leave. So make sure you go through the complete process. Turn your paperwork in, they'll send you down the line. Most likely the next thing will probably be photos, music. After you decide if you want to buy photos, if you're in a posing class, men's physique, classic, women's physique, women's bodybuilding, you'll do a 1-minute posing routine. You'll turn music in for that. But also you'll turn it in on muscle wear. You'll do that online. So everything's getting automated. So you ain't really bringing much with you. Check on that. Make sure everything's good. They give you a thumbs up. You'll go down, probably get a t-shirt, goodie bag. Thank you. Maybe your photographer at the end, taking photos, and you're out for the rest of the night.
Just in a nutshell, the check-ins are going to be really easy. They'll take care of you.
Yes,
Don't
yeah,
worry
it
about
sounds like a whole lot of
Yeah,
information,
Little bit
but
too much.
it goes pretty quick, but it's actually very simple.
It's very easy to do. So just make sure you pre-register prior. And the reason why that, you guys, it is a business, so those promoters, it's their, platform to allow us to showcase our physiques. So pre-registration is really important because how many business owners do we have in the room? Do we have any? So you guys understand that, bringing that money in definitely helps the production of the show too. So the more they know that's coming in, these promoters are wonderful giving that arena for us to compete in. I've been very fortunate. Tam doing his shows are awesome. You guys, these show promoters do a fantastic job of the production, putting these shows on for you to showcase your physique. So pre-register early, and that kind of gives you that carrot to hold out in front of you to really target yourself mentally to get that body where you need it. It really helps, but 9 times out of 10, you will hit a speed bump, you might. But a lot of times I always say, sign in, get it going, turn your money in, be ready, and
go to the promoter's website. Just because of every show in Georgia may start at 5 o'clock. And you go somewhere else, you just assume it's going to start at 5 and the show starts at 4. Or the show has started for 15 years at 5 o'clock and the promoter said, hey, I want to start it early this year. I want to start at 4. All that's on the website. Go to the website. Always find out what time prejudging is. If there's a pro portion, they may start at 8 instead of 9. And usually, if a show starts at 9 a.m., an hour before that at 8 o'clock, we usually do an athletes meeting. So all the athletes will show up, we'll go over, basically how the show's gonna run, introduce you to the head judge, and he'll go through what he's wanting to see, stuff like that, introduce you to the head expediter.
Or she.
Yeah, or she. Sorry.
Sir,
You
can
gotta leave the judge on both sides of him, having a hard time. But that's a big thing. Enjoy the whole process. If your coach says, oh, you don't need to go to the morning meeting, go to the morning meeting. Because they're gonna say something, they might combine a class, they may split a class. I know it's big in a lot of shows if they're, more than, let's say if they're 8, they'll probably leave it alone. If it goes to 8 to 16 in a class, they may try to split that class in 8 and 8. So instead of it just being an A and B, that class just went to A, B, and C. So be mindful of that, because they're trying to split it up to make sure it's, one class is not really heavy, and they only got like 2 in the next class, so they try to, do what they can with a half on that.
Yeah, the athlete meeting is there for you. They just let you know what to prepare for throughout the show, kind of guide you through what you will be dealing with and to whom you will be dealing with, the introduction.
Yeah, especially for your first time competing, go to the meeting. You should always go to the meeting. You know, a coach tells you you don't need to because they know better. They don't. I can promise you that. Especially Tim's shows. I mean, he runs the most thorough, high-level shows there are. His athlete meetings, I learned from his athlete meetings what's going on at these shows. You don't want to miss that. But you want that experience. You're going to learn how they're going to do comparisons, how they're going to do call-outs, where the medic might be, those different things like that. And to speak on that real quick, there's always a medic at every show. Your health is the most important thing. We talked about the dehydration thing. Don't come dehydrated. Not smart. You don't need to be dehydrated. But if at any point you're feeling lightheaded, you're feeling nauseous, any of those things, that's a red flag. You don't want to be on stage passing out. I don't want you on stage passing out. That's not good for anybody, right? We can slow the show down. We can move things around if we need to. Find somebody wearing a production shirt, wearing an A-team shirt, whatever it might be. When you go to the meeting, they'll show you who these people are working the show. All right, and they'll tell you how to handle those things. But if at any point you're feeling off in any way, well, let us know. Let somebody know so we can help you, get you hydrated, get you sugar, get you electrolytes, get you salt, whatever it might be that you need so that you make it to the stage. Because the last thing you want is to try to push something so hard and not even get on stage because you're being prideful, didn't want to tell somebody you weren't feeling well. Never do that. Always find us, always find an expediter. They are everywhere, especially these guys' shows. They have an incredible staff, more people than you can imagine. All you got to do is ask them, tell them something's feeling a little bit off. They'll get you taken care of, and we'll make sure that you get yourself back on stage, all right? Those things do happen, and again, this is about your experience, it's about your health, okay? So make sure that you don't, not take advantage of that. But going to that meeting is where you're going to find out that information.
Well, it looks like we got like 6 more minutes. Does anybody have any questions? No one has questions? Just between the ears, you're not going to say it out loud?
Listen, they've
There
had
we
plenty
go.
of questions.
I don't have a question, but I was gonna bring up something to talk about that you mentioned. You said getting on the stage. I was backstage at a show and a girl's number got called like 10 times. They kept yelling her name and her number, excuse me. And she never showed up. I guess, I don't know if she disappeared or she went off to do something, but I mean, what do you guys do in the event that like somebody doesn't show up?
Well, so 2 points to that. I mean, number one, don't go disappearing. Right, because sometimes we will, but I mean that seriously, sometimes we will call classes back out for whatever the reason might be. So even though you get done competing and they call the class off, stay around the stage. Don't disappear. And there may be a one-off situation where we're all calling for somebody, and if you don't come back on, you just lost your shot. So I mean, and that's a responsibility of yourself, and the expeditors are all very good about that. But they can't go find you out of the bathroom, they can't go find you in the parking lot eating a donut because you think you're done. You need to be very aware of that. And that's why I always say, like, go to the meeting and stay at the show. Find a spot backstage, get your little situation set up, right? And then park it and stay there. Don't go running back to the hotel. Don't think you're going to come like a half an hour, hour before. Because sometimes these shows can move very fast. And all of a sudden, they're calling your name and you ain't out there. We've had people come like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this came up, blah, 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 whatever it is. Well, the class is come and gone. You can come back at night and come out and do your routine, but we can't judge you again. That would be unfair. So you need to be at the show. Go to the meeting, stay at the show. It's the best way to do it, okay?
Biggest thing I see, work a lot of backstage shows in Judge, a lot of times they'll come out and they do True Novice. they'll step off, they'll run back out, maybe go out in the audience and talk to their coach. What do you think? What do you think? They go, oh, if you open up a little bit more, do this, do that. And when they come back, they go, hey, we're ready for next place. Next place is done gone.
Yeah.
That's how fast it goes. So, either if you're in figure, stay back there in the entire figure division.
And if you're backstage and, you know, he said, put the headphones on, don't put them both on. Put one on.
Right.
Put one earbud on, because you need to be able to hear us, because
Yeah.
as an expediter, you know, we want you to get on stage. That's why we're screaming someone's number the whole time. But we can't go through every nook and cranny, we're not gonna go to every bathroom, and we're not gonna go to your hotel room. So, once you get to the
Backstage,
show,
that's what we're gonna try to
stay
find.
backstage. I mean, and we tell this to every local show, and this whole panel was at the Olympia. And backstage at the Olympia, we're looking for the Olympians too, the exact same way. So it's not like, oh, they don't do it either. It's like, no, sometimes we have to look for them too. And it's like, the ones who come prepared, trust me, you know, Chris Bumstead, he was back there almost before any other classic guy.
And you tell him to stand over here, you go and come back, and he's right where you left him.
That's right.
Yeah, you guys bring up a great point. I mean, typically, the most respectful, responsible athletes are the ones who are winning the shows.
Yeah.
The athletes who are difficult, who are challenging, who have an ego, typically aren't doing that very well.
There's in fourth call-outs, thinking they may talk to you.
Right, so, you know, how you conduct yourself on and off stage, in life, I mean, all that stuff adds up. Character, integrity, like, be present, be mindful, be thoughtful. You know, this isn't a battle, you're not going to war. Don't be a men's physique guy throwing elbows up on stage, that will not get you far. I can promise you that. It's not a contact sport. You know, handle everything with grace and dignity, and you're gonna enjoy this process a lot more. Make friends, be cordial, because it's a fleeting thing. And like Mo said, I mean, this is an incredible experience. You know, most people don't have the courage to do what you guys are doing getting on stage. So enjoy that process. Don't squander it by having a bad attitude. And when you don't get the call out you want, or you don't win the show, guess what? There's a reason. There's absolutely a reason. Come on up and I will tell you. If you're kind about it, I will be kind to you. If you're a jerk about it, I will be very direct with you. And I could give you examples of some very high-level pros who came across Bill Sibilia after the Olympia that went on later to be memes.
Yeah.
But it's again, I mean, that's just the reality of it. How you carry yourself makes a big impact on the results you got, not just on stage, but in life, but especially on stage. And there's a reason why Chris Bumstead is one of the greatest of all time, a six-time champion. And it's not just because of his physique, it's because of his attitude, his championship mindset, his integrity and his character. So,
You guys gotta remember, it's just a moment in time that us judges are
Oh, yes,
judging,
and
you
briefly.
know, so don't take it personal, use it, you know, like just to strive, like Jack was saying, get feedback and just improve upon. Because Mr. and Mrs. Olympia, they're still improving on their physique. It's an ongoing process, there's not a finish line. You
Right.
know, it's-
And how many wants to be a pro? How many in here wants to be a pro? First thing in being that is his mindset. So be a pro in your mind. Act like a pro, walk like a pro.
act like a pro, 100%.
And enjoy the process, have fun, give back, share with others.
And, you know, listen, like I told you guys, I mean, it took time for me to go from a light heavyweight to a heavyweight. It's gonna take you guys time to evolve and build your physiques. You know, if you wanna be involved, talk to these guys. Talk to your state chairman, talk to the promoters. We're always looking for good people, high-quality people, high-character people that wanna be involved, all right? And like I did, I mean, I called Gary and said, hey, I'll come take tickets. Like, I'll work the door for you, for free. Like, I will show up for free, take tickets, sweep, clean the toilets, whatever I gotta do to be involved in this thing. That's how you get in the door, all right?
All they don't told you.
So if you want to be involved, I mean, we're looking for good people to do that. But you have to have the right attitude, and if you're somebody who just wants to be cool, then that's okay. We're not looking for people who want to be cool.
With that, I want to say thank you everybody for coming out.